Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off, online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, and with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up. Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and in today's episode, we're joined by a very special guest, professional hockey player and host of the Sheriff podcast, Sean the Sheriff McMorrow. Sean, also known as the Sheriff, was drafted by the Buffalo Sabres in the 2000 NHL draft in the 8th round, 258th overall, and played in the Sabres organization for 4 years prior to playing in the LNAH, the Elite Ice Hockey League, and the Western Ontario Super Hockey League. So prior to turning pro, the Sheriff spent time in the OPJHL with the Pickering Panthers before playing 3 years in the Ontario Hockey League. So it's going to be an unreal episode, Sean. So welcome to the show, Sean, the Sheriff McMorrow.
Thank you very much, brother. I really, really appreciate it. And that was an incredible intro. And I got to tell you one thing, man. I appreciate some intros more than others. And your flow on that was perfect, buddy. You're spot on. Thank you very much.
Let's go. I really appreciate that. I have to give my guest the best intro possible. So I'm glad you approve of. I'm glad the Sheriff approves of it.
100% Sheriff approved, my man.
That's awesome. But to start things off, like how are you? How have things been? Like you have an off day today, so like how's everything with you?
Everything's great, buddy. Thanks for asking. Obviously I was honored to get asked by you to do this incredible show, so my days got better. But yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm in a little bit of a gray area right now, and what I mean by that is I've been over the past few months, I've been kind of gaining momentum for me to take a major run at the major sports networks in Toronto for a broadcasting job. So the journey is as we speak, and it's always good to enjoy the journey, right, my friend?
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, congrats on getting into that gig, and like that's just awesome to see how it's going. Like that you're gonna hopefully get that role coming up soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely putting myself out there right now, which everybody has to do when they're trying to reach their dream, right? And
Yeah.
as you mentioned, I think in the intro, or no, before the intro, you were talking about the grind and stuff like that, and like in my mind, it's a beautiful thing because like like when you're trying to do something that you're really passionate about doing, and you have a set goal at the end of the line. I think that if it's a grind, that just makes it that much more beautiful, man. Because as an adult, I realized that you really do have to enjoy the process. Like as a kid, I was kind of always looking to the end, and as an adult, I'm trying to enjoy the journey more and just enjoy life in general, buddy.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And like just like the same thing like I think happens to everyone. Like there's an end goal that you want to reach, and you just think that it's gonna go from point A to point B just like that, but like there's all these different roads that you could take. No one has one same journey, like always different like curves, bumps in the road. And like it like even especially going into like pro hockey and all this, like it just enjoying the journey, and like you're not going to get to the NHL just like that. Like it's a process, and you're just going to have to go to the rink every day, enjoy what you're doing, and do the little things right if you want to get to that end goal like we were talking about.
Absolutely, buddy. And hey, as you were talking, I have to, because I know that you're a video as well as the Audible podcast. Man, you have a really good backdrop, eh? Like your background is really cool, man. Do you mind?
Yeah.
Like, I know this is your show, but do you mind just talking about that a little bit, man? Because it's
Yeah.
really cool for the guests. So
Yeah, absolutely. So like I appreciate all the kind words and everything, but yeah, like I have a little like sports like man cave, I guess you could say, in my basement. I have a
yeah,
bunch of like football stuff behind me. I have baseball to the left of me. I have hockey pretty much three-fourths of my basement, just like pennants, different flags. I have some of my old goalie gear that I grew out of in the side. I have my goalie drying rack over here to my right. So it's just I love sports. I love everything about it. So like I just created like this man cave of just flags, pictures that just like represent like history within the sports industry.
yeah, dude. I mean, I had to comment because it's pretty darn cool, man. So I had to comment, man. And I'm sure like when the YouTube episode comes out, people will be able to see it for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. And I really like pride myself in the sports world, and just having a man cave. Like you just come down here whenever you want and just enjoy like all the sports pictures, the sports, like all the sports history that's down here.
Right on, buddy. Right on. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to get into like your career a little bit here. So you grew up in Vancouver, and you were born in Vancouver, but you grew up in Scarborough, right?
That's absolutely correct, man. You're really good at your research, buddy. I like that.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, so like I have two younger brothers and an older sister, and all four of us were born in Vancouver. My parents had moved out there in the late 70s when it was booming in Vancouver, Canada, and everyone was kind of moving out there on the West Coast. And, they had job offers, went out there. We were all born out there. And when I was 6 years old, we moved back to Toronto. And that's when really the hockey story started for me. So yeah, I'm born in Vancouver but raised in Scarborough, and I like to call myself the Canadian kid from Scarborough.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, like, what got you into the game of hockey? Like, how old were you when you first started? Like, what like actually like started that growth of the love of the game?
Definitely my mom got me involved with hockey at Scarborough Malvern Arena. That was the first rink. And same with my brothers and sisters. And I mean, pretty much when we moved back to Toronto, that was going to be our stomping grounds for the next little while. So I think my mom just wanted to get us into sports and to get us to develop those skills at a young age of teamwork and perseverance, and all the other things that you learn that you go through when you join teams, sports teams and organizations and stuff. Like a lot of people think that it's just the physical part of it, like, oh yeah, get your kids exercise, get them
Yeah,
into sports. But really, I mean, that's just a small part of it, man. Like, especially for the kid, right? Because he's developing friendships, like he's learning how to adapt to to different surroundings, especially if he's going on overnight tournaments and staying with other families. And you develop a lot of skills as a kid. And I think that was definitely part of my mom's plan when she got us all involved in competitive sports and multiple sports at very young ages.
yeah. I think that's like one of the biggest things. Like a lot of people do it, play sports just for the exercise, but it really does teach you everything from teamwork, trying to like go face adversity and overcome it, like perseverance, like all that, and like any sport you do has some life lesson that you can learn that you can take into real life. And like if you face a problem in like an office scene, like you could have like do a lot of teamwork stuff to maybe solve that problem or just do something individually to overcome that obstacle. So like there's a lot to learn from any sport.
100%, man. And I'm so glad that we're talking about this stuff, buddy. Your show is just incredible, bud.
Thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. But like just like it also like goes into like I was listening to my buddy Sarge's podcast session that you were on, and you talked about like just opportunities and like learning from teamwork from like because you won three player man of the year awards in the American League, right?
Yes, man. You're the research you've done on your guests. I appreciate it. Yeah, I was definitely lucky enough, man, to be recognized for the AHL Man of the Year award. And so what that award is it recognizes the player that has the biggest impact in the community. So
Yeah.
obviously the teams designate a person like to represent their team, and then they do a league one. So I was lucky enough to win it 3 times. And I mean, it's not really about winning that award. I mean, for me, it just recognized the opportunities that I was able to get, and because the amount of times that I, did these, public appearances for my team and worked in the community. I mean, like how you mentioned on Sarge's podcast, we talked about how, the word volunteer for me turned into the word opportunity. And it was funny because every time I saw it, I just kept getting more opportunities, man. And I'm just like, well, look, they can call it whatever they want. Maybe it's
Yeah.
a secret little word that only certain people know about. I don't know, but as a result, doing this volunteer stuff for my teams, and being able to learn how to speak in front of crowds and how to be comfortable at that, and how to see like multiple kids looking and being happy that you're there, and kind of knowing how to give them all, equal attention and stuff like there's a lot of like little things that you
Yeah.
learn. And the funny thing is as an adult, me wanting to be my, like I want to be this big character on TV, and I want to be an entertainer, and I want to be a motivational speaker, and I want to be this, I want to be that, right? I'm a
Yeah.
dreamer, right? So I'm hoping that I get to all these ventures. But the point I'm trying to make is what's allowed me to get to these ventures was a lot of this volunteer work and the things that I learned doing it, right? And it really is incredible. So like one message that I always try to like, hope that younger players catch on to, like, you're going to have like a lot of players like junior aged,
Yeah.
kind of getting into pro, listening to your podcast. And like, this is a message directly to them, man. And I'm pretty much telling them, if you're a kid in the coast that gets called up to the American Hockey League, you must sign up for the off ice stuff. You must do it, buddy, because if you think you're going to stick around just being a normal player, you're not. It's only a matter of time until dude's ankle gets better, or dude's
Yeah.
shoulder is able to, he's able to get back into the lineup, and you're going back down to your team. So in the meantime, make the most of it. Do the public appearances. For one, the general manager is going to be very, very happy that a player is going to the appearance, because the front office has set it up and they put time and man hours into it. Okay, so just the technical things, but
Yeah.
then you got the moral part of it, where the team's like, you know what, this is a player that has a heart. This is a player that wants to represent our team off the ice. You know what? Maybe we can have another player stick around. Maybe we don't need to send him down. Maybe he won't get in the lineup every night, but we can, you know what I mean? So it only helps. So I suggest anybody that sees any type of sign up sheet in the dressing room, do yourself a favor and sign up, because you're only going to get benefits out of it positively.
Yeah, that's awesome, and like it just goes back to like some of the pro camps that I've been to so far in my career. Like they're all the coaches like you could be the best player out there, but if you don't have character or anything like that or have a heart, like we don't want you. And like just having that having it's just gonna be able to help you be, and you're gonna keep you around for a little bit longer.
100%, buddy. You said that very, very well.
Yeah, and
100%.
I yeah, and I like Yeah, I like how you said opportunity as well with the volunteer stuff because like throughout like throughout like my childhood, like I'd always go to like fundraiser events for like the AHL team here and like I'd like love like seeing all the players and everything just be there and interacting with everyone and like I was like when I get to the pro level to the pro ranks like that's one thing I want to do is just be a big part of the community and just like it's gonna help you learn a lot of different experiences opportunities and it's gonna help you grow as a person as well.
100%. So now, where is this infamous AHL town that you're in?
Chicago Wolves.
Right on, man. Wow, you're in Chi-Town, eh? That's
Oh
really
yeah.
cool, man. Man, I'll tell you one thing, man. That area there, like that was some of the coolest times of my life when I had a chance to live in Chicago for a little bit. So that's good on you. And the coolest thing about that area is like all the different teams. Like I noticed like all these like minor pro teams just
Yeah.
popping up like in between like Rockford and Chicago area or even in between like the suburbs and downtown for that. Like it's really cool. It's really a big hockey area, isn't it?
Yeah, and it keeps growing constantly. Like minor pro, minor like youth hockey. Like you always see teams like I'm coaching now as well. Like in my off time, and it's like I see organizations that I never even knew existed when
Yeah.
I was playing when I was younger, and it's like wow, everything just keeps growing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, everything's growing, buddy, just like your show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I did hear that you because I listened to Spin Chicklets episode too, and you were with the Wolves for a little bit there, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I had a great experience with like now this is the compliment of compliments, okay? So now here's a player that didn't play one game for an organization. Okay. And the reason for it is just because like, obviously it's an AHL team. I wasn't under NHL contract. I was
Yeah,
on a PTO. So everybody knows how that works. The NHL
yeah.
contract guys get priority to get into the lineup. Everybody knows that, right? So not only was it that, but I was also a veteran. So they like to keep extra veterans just in case there's injuries and they got the most beef at anybody in the league, right?
Yeah.
So even though I did not play one game, I was there from September until about the beginning of December having a great time. I was in the shape of my life, practicing every day, doing extra drills because I wasn't in the lineup. But I just got a little bit tired of not playing because I'm a
Yeah.
competitor. And at the end of the
You just
day,
want to play.
exactly. I was making good money because their owner has some bucks behind his
Yeah.
name, to say the least. And I was making good money. I wasn't even paying for my apartment because of the technical like being on a PTO and there's all these little rules, right? But all these little rules worked out in my favor for a guy that wasn't playing. If I wanted to save a bunch of money, that would be. But to play hockey, I had to get out of there, man, because it was just way too deep. And I love the Chicago Wolves. I love how they treat the players. It just didn't work out for me, but that's
Yeah.
fine. You know what I'm saying? And that was actually the first time I went to that notorious Quebec League was after the Chicago Wolves, right? So yeah, man, it's interesting how our journeys, how they mean different things sometimes in different times of our lives. And I thought I was so cool, man, making all that money, but really, I just really wanted to play deep down. You know what I'm saying? So that was pretty cool that came up, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's the competitor in you, and like you, like yeah, you're doing that. You're like being a leader and like showing the young guys what to do, but you also want to play, and like
100%.
you're not playing like when you're sitting in the stands every game. Like you just want to go in there, compete, battle, and play the game you love.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better than that, bro. 100%.
Yeah, but then you were also with the Wolves rivals, Rockford Ice Hogs for a year. So like what was your time in Rockford like? Especially
Yeah,
since
I mean,
you did
man,
win that Man of the Year award there as well.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's right, man. Yeah, that was my third AHL Man of the Year. I won two of them in Rochester and the one in Rockford, which was my final year in the AHL. I had a really good time there. It was a really great experience. Rockford, Illinois, is a town that is so blue collar that you know, the blue collars are even a darker shade of blue, man. Like it's so cool, man, how hardworking and honest everybody is there. They got their cowbells. They got a good history. There's a nice rivalry. I'm probably getting you all fired up because you're a
Oh yeah.
Chicago Wolf guy, right? But
Oh yeah.
there's a pretty, yeah, and like, but that's a beautiful thing though, right? Because not every area has rivalries like that. You know what I'm saying?
And
So
that's a
Rockford and
big
Chicago.
rivalry.
Oh yeah, man. And trust me, when I played for Rockford and the Wolves came into town, I remember fighting Mike Hoffman. He was the guy at that time for Chicago. And I had played for Chicago a couple of years before. And I'm not gonna lie, man. I was so mad that I wasn't the Chicago Wolves tough guy that I just wanted to kill Hoffman, right? So the Wolves definitely has that impact on the players. Like I loved Rockford, but there was something about not being on the Wolves and playing against the Wolves that got me fired up. So
Yeah.
I think that I think that the Wolves probably have a higher status in some of the players' minds, just like the historically and stuff like that. Rockford did come from the United League, right? So
Yeah.
so I think the Wolves are, yeah, man, they definitely left their mark on me, bro. Yeah, I'm definitely proud to have been there, and I think another thing, what it was, is I wanted to fight Hoffman so bad, is because I was just like, man, I never got into a game, so at least
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a good fight. Like, you know what I'm saying? Something like that, probably, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, man, good times though, man, good times. Like it's funny, like when I mentioned certain tough guys' names, you know, at those times in my life, it seemed like, they were novelties, like they were like, like the enemy and stuff. And then so many of them are my really good buddies now. And then now that I have like the show and stuff, and I'm, interviewing them, and like it's all different dynamics, right? But it's funny how it works, man. It's funny how it works. Like, some of the guys that I thought I'd never be friends with, I'm like really good buddies with. So it's interesting how hockey can do that, man. It opens up a lot of doors for you.
Yeah, especially as like tough guys, like you could go beat someone up, like the toughest guy on the other team, and you guys could go grab a beer or something after the
Yeah.
games, and like nothing happened, like everything, like you have a job to do on the ice and off the ice. You're the best buddies in the world.
Yeah, and you know what? Like that will always be explained, first and foremost, when people are kind of explaining stuff about the old school hockey to someone that's not very familiar with hockey in general.
Yeah,
And like, they'll point that out. They'll be like, it's rough on the ice, but when they get off, they're friendlier. And you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like it's funny because you don't have to explain that for physical sports like football and stuff, right?
yeah,
So hockey is very unique, man. It's very unique, and it's cool. Like me and you, we're connected through it. Like it's
yeah.
amazing what it does.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. It's the circle, the inner circle is so small. Like in the hockey world or like any sports world, honestly, like you just meet guys and you just connect because of the sport.
Yeah, yeah, buddy, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. But before you were in Rockford in Chicago, you spent your first 4 years of pro hockey with the Rochester Americans and the Buffalo Sabres organization. It's like where you also got a game with the Sabres in that first year. It's like let's talk about Rochester a little bit here. So you spent 4 years
Yeah,
there. It's like what was it like going throughout like the Sabres organization, especially since that was the team that drafted you?
yeah. So Buffalo and Rochester, for those that don't know, are very, very, very closely connected. Not only literally, but like with the organizations, because they're only an hour and 20 minutes from each other down a
Yeah.
throughway, right? Down the New York State throughway. So they're very close in proximity. And then because of that, and like, other teams can attest to that. Like Toronto has their Marlies. You know, I'm not. Who are the Wolves associated with now?
Carolina, the
They're with
Hurricanes.
Carolina now. Okay,
Yeah.
right. So like, but there's a few different teams, like, that are in the same city as their NHL teams. And like Rochester and Buffalo almost seem like they have that effect because I mean, when you're in Toronto, I mean, you could drive an hour across the city with the traffic and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you're still in Toronto. You know what I'm saying? So Buffalo and Rochester are very close, and they work very closely together because Buffalo is a smaller market team. Especially, like I mean, recently they've kind of gotten new ownership and stuff, but traditionally Buffalo's been a very small market team, and they've had to rely on their farm system to be successful at all, right? And
Yeah.
so, as a benefit to a guy like me, that was like, pretty much an AHL guy, is being a part of an organization like Buffalo. Even their top prospects, they would have play in the AHL for a couple seasons. So, guys like Derek Roy, Jason Pominville, Ryan Miller, one of the best American goalies of all time, my roommate on the road, I got to play with these guys, Thomas Vanek.
Yeah.
I got to play with these guys, for multiple seasons and become really good friends with them. And, families getting to know each other and stuff like that. So like, I mean, my time in Rochester, getting to spend the 4 years there, being drafted with other players to Buffalo and then sent there, that started when we were 18 years old because they would have us go to conditioning camps in the summer. And like you think, okay, well, it's just a conditioning camp, but they would actually make it like 3, 4 weeks long. So I
Wow.
really got to know like Miller and Pominville and Vanek and and Chris Thorburn and guys like that, like Nathan Page, like I really got to know these guys really well even before we started playing in Rochester, and then we started playing 80 game seasons in Rochester together. Going to Buffalo camps, playing NHL preseason together. Getting those experiences, getting to see each other play in the NHL for the first time, and then playing a whole season together in Rochester. Like hearing me say it like that, it seems like a lot, right? But that would just be one season, right? And
Yeah.
I'd spent multiple seasons with some of these guys. So I mean, it was a great time. um, I did really well in Rochester, especially my first year, and that's why I was rewarded with that game. I mean, pretty much how it works is like the NHL teams will have their eyes on a handful of the AHL guys. Some of them might not even get called up, but the NHL guy, the NHL team would be like, okay, so this is our handful that we're really counting on for like the next year, maybe to make the
Yeah.
team, right? And so like I was in that handful, but then with Rob Ray getting traded to Ottawa, it opened up a spot. And then the game being in Toronto, I think it was a gift. It was a reward that they gave me. I was leading the league. I was leading the AHL in fights. I was a 20-year-old rookie, and I think they just recognized and appreciated the passion, and we're like, heck, if this guy keeps this up, he's going to do great for us. So let's reward him. Let's give him a game. There's a game in Toronto. He's from Toronto. Let's do that for him. And I'm thankful. Like I think I earned it, but I also think that they could have had me play any of those last 20 games of the season, and I got to play that one, and it was hockey night in Canada, and it was a Saturday night, and it was special to me because I used to watch the NHL games on Saturday nights in Canada with my grandfather, the house that I'm actually in right now. And so, it meant a lot to me, man. And, being a part of the Buffalo organization and being from Toronto, they were a divisional team growing up. And so it was definitely recognizable. And, I'm very thankful that I was able to have those opportunities and experiences for sure.
Yeah, that's unreal, especially like growing up with your grandfather and everything, watching Saturday night games in Canada, and you're playing hockey night in Canada in Toronto in your hometowns. Like, did you have a lot of people go watch that game?
Yeah, I ended up like when you're a visiting player playing in Toronto, the Toronto Maple Leafs make the visiting team. You're only allowed to put aside like certain tickets. So at the time they were $150 tickets.
Yeah.
So they were probably like, in a pretty good section or whatever, but that's the only ones that you could get. Like you couldn't just get a bunch of cheap tickets like way up in the in the nosebleeds. You had to get
Yeah.
these certain tickets, right? So I think like about 20 people may have came, that were part of the group anyway. And so yeah, it was a big number for that, but it was, it was definitely worth it. I think my mom ended up paying for most of it anyway, um, and yeah, it was. I don't think anyone really cared about the money. They were just happy to see me there, and I was just happy to be there.
Yeah, it's
So
just a dream come true, and anyone that's close to you is gonna come to your first NHL game and make that like dream like last even longer. Because I'm sure like everyone still remembers that day. Like you remember probably every shift you took, every stride you
yeah,
took on the ice. So how did that game end up going? Like
so
how was
so
your
we
first touch? Everything.
yeah, so um, obviously me being a fourth liner, I knew I wasn't going to be getting 20 minutes of ice time, right?
Yeah,
So I think I officially had about 3 minutes and change of ice time. I think it was three shifts in the first, two shifts in the second, and then I think I got one in the third. Like it was something like that. And I mean, it could have been different, but I think it was just a one goal game. Like they beat us 3-2. It was a tight game. The
yeah,
fourth line's definitely not going to get out there a lot, right? If it was a 5-1 game, you know what I mean? My line probably would have got out there to either try to stir stuff up to come back into the game or to just make sure that nothing happened. And you know what I mean? It
yeah,
depends. It would depend on what side of the 5-1 we were on, right? But it was a tight game, and every third, fourth liner knows, fifth, sixth defenseman knows that you're definitely not going to get a lot of ice time in those situations. So yeah, so I made a couple body checks. I did get to touch the puck. Um, I remember I think I took like a breakout pass and fed it to my center, something like that, and then we
there
dumped
we
it in
go.
or something. And but I think I only made the one body check though. It was an angling, because I remember joking around with my assistant coach after when he was telling me good angle on the forecheck, good angle, because we would practice angles with him in the AHL. So like it was cool, man. It was cool. Like it was. Like it wasn't like I was like a goon, just sat
Yeah.
there in the bench the whole game. Like I did get to play, made a couple hits, made a couple passes, had a great warm up. Just joking. sniped,
Love it.
sniped
Love it.
every warm up shot. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, no, it was a great experience, man. I'll never forget it, and I appreciate you asking me.
Yeah, made a few impactful plays. So like breakout pass,
Yeah,
a hit, like that's all you can ask for in your first NHL game.
that's right, man. That's right, bro.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you were drafted to the Sabres in 2000 in the eighth round. It's like what was your draft story like?
So like I was actually I had an agent that was pretty a pretty highly touted agent at the time. He ended up being like a general manager and stuff. His name's Mike Gillis. I don't know if you know which guy I'm talking about, but he ended up being the GM for the Vancouver Canucks about, I don't know, 5-10 years ago or something. I'm not
Yeah,
sure what he's doing now, but he's a big hockey guy out of Kingston, Ontario. Um, and he had a rule that you had to be rated in the first 3 rounds of the draft to actually go physically, right?
yeah,
Because he would have situations before he made this rule of players that, let's say it's like an 8 round draft and they're rated in the seventh, eighth round, and they don't get drafted, they just miss out, and it ruins them. It ruins their confidence. It ruins their mind, and they're never the same. So then he ended up making this rule, and I respected the rule. I was rated in the seventh round out of a 9 round draft, so there was a huge chance that I wouldn't get chosen. So he said, you're not going, and just stay home and have a barbecue and wait by the phone, right? And so that's what I did, and so we had a barbecue, and this is back in 2000, right? So um, I don't even really remember like what the internet was like. It was because I remember there was the radio, and but the radio must have stopped because the rounds were like 2 or 3 rounds behind real time. So
Yeah.
when it got to like the sixth or seventh round, I remember thinking like on the computer, like on the internet, I guess,
Yeah.
like the dial up. See, you're a young guy, man. You're a young guy, so you're probably like dial up. What does that mean? But yeah, our technology has gotten really good since the year I was drafted, right? But
Yeah.
anyway, so make a long story short, man, the family was together. It was a really nice time. I did get the phone call. There was 2 calls. So I remember like my agent called, told me that I was selected, and that Darcy Regier was going to call me. And then I ended up getting another call, and it was Don Luce, who was pretty much like the assistant GM. And he pretty much said, congratulations, Sean, we selected you in the 8th round. And we're going to send you paperwork, an invitation to training camp. We're going to have a conditioning camp before that for the young guys. Welcome aboard. And so, I just said thank you. I appreciate the opportunity and blah, 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 probably stuttered the whole time,
Yeah.
hung up. And yeah, and then everyone started cheering, right? And so like that was kind of like it's funny because that was like how the COVID drafts were this year, like in basketball
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. I remember watching like the basketball draft this year, and they're all at home, and because of COVID, right? But yeah, that's how it kind of was for guys that weren't rated high enough to go in person. It was like a COVID draft. But it was fun, and yeah, like it's like I look at it as a family accomplishment anyway. The
Yeah.
NHL draft, you're only 18 at the time, right? And from until you're 18 years old, I mean, your family's been through every decision and impacted path from through and through to that point. So I always look at like I always like when I have a guest, I always ask them like, do you feel that it's kind of like a family accomplishment? Because they're so young, they're just a teenager getting drafted to the NHL, like So I'll always remember, and I love it when I'm asked. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's an awesome story, especially like since like you're like having a barbecue, you're with your entire family and everything. So like you're able to just experience everything with your family, and like they're the ones who go through the trenches and everything with you, like throughout like from youth hockey all the way up to that point. So it's a very, very important and very proud accomplishment to be a part of, I would imagine.
Yes, man. Yep, you're absolutely right, man.
Yeah, so then you find yourself going through the NHL, through the AHL. You find yourself going overseas after that year in Rockford to the Belfast Giants and the Elite Ice Hockey League. So like what made that decision to go overseas?
Yeah, so I was lucky because my general manager in Rockford, a gentleman by the name of Mark Bernard, he
I know Bernie.
so Bernie. Okay, cool, man.
Yeah.
Because you're a tender too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
man.
yeah.
You guys are all secretly connected in this world. I
We're
know.
all connected.
Yeah, you tenders, man. You guys are special. But yeah. So Bernie's my GM, right? You know Bernie, how
Yeah.
hyper and just how much of a little fireball the guy is, right? So he's my GM. He's telling me about this league, like the whole second half of the year, saying, you know what, like you'd probably do really well in England, and he's telling me about all this stuff, right? And then so I'm doing my thing off the ice, and then they obviously they nominated me, for the man of the year thing, and Bernie's the boss of the front office, so he's really happy with me, right? Because I've been doing all these
Yeah.
projects for him all season long. Mark Bernard, towards the end of the season, he got into contact with Mr. Todd Kelman, who was the general manager of the Belfast Giants, and so he was telling me like I remember like I heard a lot about the Belfast Giants because of Theo Fleury playing there back in like the like in the early 2000s, and this was 2010 that I was in Rockford, and he's like, yeah, Belfast Giants, and then we ended up getting knocked out of the playoffs, and now we're having our year-end meetings. And, again, this is a guy that's really happy with me because I've done all the off-ice stuff for him. So he's treating me with a lot of respect. And then one day, like one of the last days that we were there, he just kind of called me in, and he was like, look, Belfast is really interested in you. Um, I know how the league works. So do you want me to help you like bridge the deal? And I was like, yeah, Bernie, that would be great. So he actually acted as my agent for the deal, and he negotiated like the British pounds per week. He negotiated a fight bonus for me. I remember, yeah, like it was really cool. Like I remember I had a 50-pound fight bonus. Like it doesn't seem like
Wow.
a lot, but I mean, you get into a couple tilts, and you have 100 pounds after the game.
And
It's not that
just
bad, right?
keeps going up. Just keeps
Exactly.
building.
Exactly. So like yeah, so Mark Bernard, he negotiated all that for me. And because I was an AHL player, I got to have like my own car, and I got to bring my girlfriend over, and they paid for her tickets. I got to have a 2-bedroom flat instead of a 1-bedroom
Yeah.
flat. You know what I mean? Like I was treated really, really well. And I mean, that's just the contract and stuff. What I really loved about it was the people, the land. I'm a big cultural and historical buff, I believe. I think I'm so into it, right? And so to go to a place like Belfast is like very interesting for someone like me, right? And like I may not look it, but I mean half my family is of Irish descent, right? So
Yeah.
it's so I have the ancestry, and I ended up getting an ancestry visa to make it easier for the team. But it also benefited me, and I qualified for that because my grandfather was born over there. And yeah, like I mean, the Belfast Giants, I mean, they use the British government uses them as a tool to bring the communities together. And like I'm not really sure how much your viewers know about the history of Northern Ireland, but I mean, this is a place that in several parts of the country, it is still at war. This is Northern Ireland, and it's a very unique war that is about land and it's about history. And it's Protestant and Catholic conflicts that they call the Troubles.
Ooh.
The height of the Troubles was in the 70s and 60s, but it still exists today, where there's things that happen and it's still classified as an ongoing war. So now, if you have a region that has this problem with people that look exactly the same, but they just follow a different sect of Christianity, how can you resolve something like this? Well, what if we took this new sport of ice hockey and we made everything neutral, down to the color of the green? We named the team after a historical landmark called the Giants Causeway that has nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with soccer teams, nothing to do with division. Okay.
Yeah.
When you enter the Odyssey Arena in Belfast, you can't wear anything other than a Belfast Giants jersey or civilian clothes. You can't come with any soccer jerseys or anything that can cause a division. There's no national anthem in the arena in Belfast, just to reduce the tension. And you can be from the other side of town. You could have been brought up to learn that you're not supposed to like the opposite side of town. And you can come to a Belfast Giants game and sit right beside that same person from the opposite side of town
Yeah.
and celebrate your team together and do something positive with each other. So that is really the only way to bring the communities together. And the British government does that. So the Belfast Giants were, when I was doing this negotiation with Mark Bernard, the Belfast Giants were looking for a community guy that would be the face of the team. They wanted it to be a tough guy. They call it hard man. That's where I got this part of my t-shirt from. So not a hard man, not a tough guy, not an enforcer with the sheriff, right? But in the UK, they call the tough guys hard men. So that's where that comes from. So they wanted a hard man to be the face of the team,
Yeah.
to do all these appearances, of bringing Catholics and Protestants together. And I had just won my third AHL Man of the Year award, right? And I was known as one of the top AHL heavyweights. So it was just kind of destiny for Todd Kelman. Who is this guy with this Irish name that wins all these community awards, that wants to do all these appearances? We really need someone like that. And then here I am playing all these years in the American Hockey League, not getting an opportunity in the NHL, now ready to see something different. And that is usually the situation for most pro hockey players.
Yeah.
They're at the end of their 20s, they're about 30 years old. I was 28 at the time. They've done their 6, 7 seasons. Maybe they're in their third contract of being in this AHL, NHL little bubble. They're not getting their shot, but they're playing these 3-3s every weekend in the AHL, right? And now they're getting all these offers from Europe. Well, I wasn't getting all these offers. I was getting one, but a player is going to get all these offers from Europe, because if you're a top player in the AHL, that's a really good standing to be in the world, when on the world stage. Like, you're pretty much in the second best league in the world, and if you're a good player, that means that you could be playing in the NHL, which means
Yeah.
that you're at the top level, right? So that's when you guys usually take that leap, when they're ready to see something different, and they think that they've reached their peak as far as North America. And that's what I had thought. And I'm so glad that I went, man. It was definitely the best season in my career, playing for the Belfast Giants.
Yeah, it seems like you had a great time over there, and you're able to help bridge that gap of just bringing the community together, and not like like about just bring, like, you could be one at one end of the country, and then the other end of town, like you're just sitting next to each other, and like you're just enjoying
Enjoying a
a good
pint.
old hockey game and
Yeah.
enjoying a Belfast Giants game.
Yeah. And then what happens is, like, okay, so now let's make it more technical, man. Someone from a Catholic neighborhood that is a dissident, which means someone that kind of causes problems
Yeah.
against the other side of town, or vice versa. So now you're at the arena, you're sitting beside someone that you normally wouldn't be sitting beside outside the arena, and you think to yourself, I guess they're not that bad. I'm having a pretty
I
good
guess they're
time
as good as I
celebrating
am.
this Giants game with them. Why can't I do that in other parts of my life? Right.
Yeah.
So it really is something special, man. And I don't think a lot of people realize how important the Belfast Giants are to politics in Northern Ireland. And and I feel blessed that I was part of that journey, of that process, of the end game of bringing everybody together.
Yeah, it's more than a game when you look at it, and it's just like you're playing the game, but at the end of the day, it's more than that, and like you're just bringing the community together and bringing everyone together into cheering for a team that has like two complete opposite sides of town.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and then the following year, you go into Dundee with the Dundee Stars in the Elite Ice Hockey League. So like, what was that season like? And then like you also spent time in the Quebec League over in the LNAH as well.
Yes. So yeah, so like my career, I finished up like the second season in Dundee was a great experience. I didn't play a lot of games because I was there for about half the season. But it was an incredible experience. I was actually able to go over there with my fiance at the time, right? So I was engaged, and I negotiated my own contract. Mark Bernard did
Living the
Belfast.
good life.
Yeah, Mark Bernard did Belfast, but I did Dundee, right? So I negotiated that contract. It was a little bit more money, which it's not always about that, but it can make you very comfortable if you can set up the right deal, right?
Yeah.
So it was, and you feel respected as well. So it was a very respectful contract. The Ward brothers were very good with that. The place that I lived at was phenomenal. The car was incredible. The guys on the team were so cool. We had about 8 Scotsmen on our team, because you had to have a certain amount of British guys on the team,
Yeah.
right? So if you're an expansion team from Scotland, you're pretty much they're all gonna be Scottish guys. You're not gonna be like in the league long enough that you could have recruited all guys from all over the UK. So
Yeah.
just to learn that culture, and I just want to point out one thing before we move on from Scotland. So I had a conversation with these Scottish guys about the kilts. Okay, so like most of your audience is American and Canadian, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm talking with your audience right now. So guys, I'm talking to my teammates that are Scottish people, Scottish men, about these kilts. And I'm saying to them, like, okay, I understand it's part of your culture, but let's just figure this little topic out right here. What looks better? A man in a really nice suit, like a Gucci suit, or someone that's in a kilt and in that traditional dress? Like, which one looks better? Okay. They honestly believe that they look better. They honestly I'm like, okay, just forget about where we're from. Like, let's say I'm from Australia and you're from friggin' Cuba. Like, this has nothing to do with being Canadian or Scottish. We're given two sets of clothing. One is a $5,000 suit of your favorite color with an incredible tie and dress shirt. The other one is a traditional kilt,
Yeah.
however, an ensemble. You're really telling me that you think the kilt is going to look better on you than the $5,000 Gucci suit? And they're like, yeah, man, we think it looks better. So, I mean, I just wanted to share that. They really do think it looks better, guys. I'll never be able to figure that out. But other than that, I think that they're like the one of the coolest cultures that I've been around.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
That
really
that's
cool
all.
people.
Yeah, that's awesome that you're able to experience everything like that, and like just experiencing different cultures. Like you're like comfortable with one, with like the culture that you're in, and then you go somewhere else and it's completely different, and you just get to experience like what they do on a daily basis.
Oh yeah.
Like it's a great experience. Like you learn so much from just being over in a different area, and like you come back and you're I wouldn't say a different person, but like you gain like different perspectives from different places, different countries, different people.
Oh yeah. And like just like a little example is like you know how like we'll see commercials or like we'll be at the grocery store and like let's say we're getting beef or we're buying like steaks or something, right? and then
Yeah.
and then you and then you see pictures of like Highland cows and stuff like that, those big cows from the UK that they get the beef from. Man, I drove by those big suckers every morning, man. I would drive by, I would honk the horn, man, and see them lift their heads. Those big, they look like buffalo, man. They're like big and huge
Oh,
cows, man, in
wow.
Scotland. Yeah, man. I'm having brain freezes, but like it's a well-known beef. It's like
Yeah.
some of the better beef. I don't. It's not called Highland. It's called. It's a brisket, but like it'll come to us. But it's those big cows, though, man. I drove by them every morning. It was really cool on the way to practice, on the way to the rink.
Wow.
Like it was just like just like a property that I had to pass. It was like a little farming, little cow farm that I had to pass on the way to the rink, right in Dundee. I think Dundee's like the fourth biggest city in Scotland, like after Glasgow and Edinburgh and and Fife and all these places. But yeah, man. And then so from Scotland, my last few years, like I played in Quebec. I had a really good setup in Quebec with the team that I played for. And the organization was just hands down really good to me, treated me very well. Probably got to play a couple extra seasons just based on how good of a relationship I had with the team. I probably wasn't even as productive as I was the years before, but just you know what I mean. I
Yeah.
was good enough to like for it to be a positive outcome, and and yeah, man, it was my last couple of years. I was lucky, man. Like it went pretty smooth. No major injuries. Tried to make a couple little mini comebacks and stuff, but for the most part, I was pretty lucky with the injuries as well.
Yeah, and like throughout your time in the Quebec League, you also have a world record of getting in 86 fighting majors throughout that
Yeah.
year. So what, how, like you could go into battle every day. So what would you do to like keep yourself in TikTok shape to be able to do that and get that record?
See, this is the thing, man. Every single time I think about that, something different will pop up as a reason of how it happened or what helped it, or you know what I mean, like different ways to answer the questions.
Yeah.
And like, it's such a good question because you have to ask it. Like, I'm a host too, bro. You've done such a good job today. But like,
Thank you.
one of the we oh no problem, man. But one of the ways that you're really good at it is, like, a lot of hosts, there'll be like obvious questions that need to be asked, and they'll kind of all ask them like right away, where you spread it out, man. You spread it out all over the episode, like the ones that need to be asked. So I appreciate that. But so yeah, so the 86 fights, man. I mean, the funny thing is I'm going to answer it a different time this time around too, which is cool because it's original. Um, it was like I was part of a fraternity. The fraternity was the hockey team, but there was executive members. The executive members were the other five fighters on the team, because this was at a time. Now, the year that I broke that I got that record was the 2007 2008 season. Okay, so now that is a time in the Quebec League where there was five fighters on each team. Now there's like one or two,
Yeah.
but at that time there was like five or six, and if you were the Laval Chiefs, you'd have seven or eight. But so at that time, I was rated the number one fighter on my team. I had four other guys that would fight every game, and it was just part of the package of the game. The league calls it le show. So le show could happen in the beginning of the game, like the first face-off, where you could get like 3, 4, 5 fights in a row.
It's a line,
Le
bro.
show, yeah, le show could happen after the first goal of the game. So like, let's say it'll just be a normal game. Like trust me, even if you watch that Laval Chiefs documentary, like even those times where it's like you see all those brawls, every game, one team's trying to score more goals than the other. It's a normal hockey game through and through. There's multiple lines of skilled players. Usually the goalies are really good because it's in Quebec, and you know how there's all those good Quebec
Yeah.
French goalies, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
like usually the goalies are sick because they're like guys that could have played pro, but you know what I mean? Like, but they're really good in junior. Like, you know what I mean? And then you'll have a couple lines of really skilled players. And I'm talking about in '08, right? And then you would have, because it was 12 and 6. So every guy on the fourth line would be a heavyweight fighter. Okay. Every guy on the fourth line. So center, left, right wing. Then there would be like one guy on the third line that would also be a heavyweight fighter. And then you would have like one or two of the D men. So you would have about five. So for us, it was like that.
Yeah.
And we were like a brotherhood. We backed each other up. We knew that we had to do our le show at some point of the game, and we were just united, and we were all really good friends. So that's why I call it kind of like a fraternity. I was very lucky, didn't get injured. My team made it all the way to the finals of Game 6. So we played 20 playoff games, which helped me because they count the playoffs for that year.
Yeah.
So I was at 64 or something at the end of the season. And then I got to 86 by those 20 playoff games. So if I wasn't on a team that was as good as that, then obviously I wouldn't have been able to play as many games, wouldn't have been able to get the record. So it was an honor being on that team. The team was called the the Top Design, the Saint Hyacinthe, the Saint Hyacinth Top Design. I think it was just like a sponsor company name, the Top Design or something. But it was a really really good organization, and it was very very good memories, man.
Yeah, that's a thank you for sharing that story like that, like just like it's awesome to just hear about like all the stories and everything, and then just how like you guys were all just like fraternity brothers and you're just close with everyone. Like there's five like tough guy, 5, 6 heavyweights on the
Oh yeah,
team, and you're just
and these
and
are
like it's a
legit, like
yeah.
legit heavyweight hockey fighters. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a normal hockey game, but at any point of the
At
game,
any
the
point, the
show
show
will
will
go
start.
on. Will
Le
go
show,
on.
they call it. Yeah, that's literally what they call it, man. Le show. And it's still
Nice.
like that. It's just reduced, like, dramatically. Dramatically, I should say.
That's crazy. But I have a
Yeah,
few more questions before we wrap
yeah,
things up here. So,
of course.
like everyone's probably wondering why or how did you get your nickname, the Sheriff?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're talking about Quebec, so it's definitely fitting to bring it up now. So that same year, the same year that the record was being attempted, um, obviously my owners were happy with me. I had a really good year. Like obviously I was doing my job. That's what I was getting paid for. I was getting paid a lot of money at the time. It was about $1,000 a game. And there was 2 games a week. There was signing
Oh,
bonuses.
yeah.
Like it was pretty good, man, and it was all cash, right? So that's what I was getting paid for. I was putting up some points too because I was getting regular shifts because I
Yeah.
just came from the Chicago Wolves, right? So I come from Chicago halfway through the 06-07. Now we're talking about the 07-08. So this is just the next season after me being for Chicago for those few months, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm coming off like being on an AHL team, especially like a guy that gets bag skated all the time because I wasn't playing. So like my skill level was really high because I'm like practicing with all these AHL guys every day, inter squad games, and then I'm
Just
coming to a
everything.
league. Yeah, I'm coming to a league where, there's only one team practice a week. It was Tuesday night. That was the night that we got paid. Um, you know what I'm saying? So it was quite a big difference. And the transition was cool. And yeah, man, like I said, like I'm just lucky to have been a part of it.
Yeah, that's a crazy that's an awesome background story and like just like how people get their nicknames. Like you could go
Okay,
from
so
like
dude, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. The whole point of me bringing that up was about the sheriff nickname. So my owner, I'm sorry about that, brother. So my owner, he owned a bar that we go to after the
oh
game called Le Zipper. So I'm in Le Zipper, and the owner calls me over, and it's this thick French accent. And he's like, from now on, we call you Le Sheriff because I think I'd done really well in my fight that night, and I think I scored a
yeah,
goal or something, and so I was like kind of the man for that night,
just
and so
buzzing out there.
yeah, so yeah, he said from now on we'll call you the sheriff, and that was in 2007, 2008, and it stuck ever since then, man. It's stuck ever since then. Belfast really embraced it with some merchandise, but other than that, everyone pretty much always calls me that. So I've been very proud to be able to keep it.
Yeah, what a nickname to have stick around and like the sheriff like that.
Yeah,
That's a sick nickname.
I appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, so then you go on to create the Sheriff podcast and you're the host of it, obviously. It's like how much fun do you have having your own show, being the host of the Sheriff podcast and just getting like your guests that you do and like your friends that you played with, you played against and just get them on your show.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely been a blessing. I got lucky, was a guest on a show called Enforcer's Corner, by a gentleman named Kyle Warner, a fellow American. He's from the Philly area, and so I was telling him during the show that I've always had an interest in the media side, and I wouldn't mind starting my own podcast, this, that, the other. And so, a couple days after we did our show together, he called me and said, "Hey, man, I was thinking about what you were saying about wanting to start a show." He's like, "Hey, like I have my own show right now, so I'm already in with Spotify and all that. And if you wanted to join forces, you're the pro hockey player, I'm the tech guy. We could join forces. We'll call it the Sheriff Podcast, and we'll do it." And so we did. So it was me and Kyle Warner probably for the first like 6 to 8 months. It's been about a year and a half now, that I've been doing the show, and so the first 6, 7, 8 months, I had a co-host, but he had a young child and just couldn't keep up with like because at first we were just doing like once a week, and then we
Yeah.
started like crazy. We started doing like 3 a week because it was all Zoom, right? Like I'm doing the live
Yeah.
shows now, but it was all Zoom, and yeah, it was too much. You know what I'm saying? So we're still buddies. But we just don't do the show together. I do it on my own, I have a great time. I get to interview my heroes. I think because of the role that I played when I played pro, I get a lot of yeses because like I was an honest player and I fought and
Yeah.
stuff. And I think a lot of the players appreciate that. And they're just kind of like, yeah, I'll do that tough guy show. You know what I mean? So I get a little bit of respect for that. Um, and I've learned a lot, man. And to be honest, I applied for a broadcasting job back in 2016 when I had first retired. And I've retired a couple times since then, but I thought I was ready then. And I had no idea, right? And the stuff that I've learned over the past 2 years, let's say, a lot by doing the show is priceless. It's all hands-on experience. You know
Yeah.
this too. By doing your show, just the experience part of it, man, it's priceless. You can't teach it in
Yeah.
school. There's
Mm-mm.
no way
No.
to mimic it in a classroom. It's just not possible, right? It's got to be hands-on experience. And with all the episodes you've done, I'm up to like I think I'm up to 157 now or something. That's just hands-on experience, man. We can never buy that anywhere, right? So
Yeah.
so it's been a really fun ride. For me, I like to think of it as a running resume because I'm sure you're the same. Like I'm trying to get a career out of this.
Yeah.
So this is all my footage. This is all my content. This is what people can look at if they think I'm the right man for the job. Well, check me out, man. I got 157 episodes on YouTube, right? So yeah,
Absolutely.
and yeah, we're all in this like for passion and stuff. We're all passionate about this, and that's why we do it. I'm sure it's the same with you.
Yep. Absolutely. And like you were saying, like with the hands-on experience, like you can't get this anywhere else. Like, you can't just go randomly like go somewhere and just learn this. Like you actually have to from firsthand experience and just getting the repetitions in the every like episodes. Like it's gonna start off being like iffy, and then like as you keep going on, like you're just gonna keep getting better and better.
Oh yeah, 100%, buddy. The reps are important, eh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But Sean, this has been a ton of fun. Like I really appreciate you coming on, and I want to wish you the best of luck with your podcast and with your work. And I can't wait to continue to watch your episodes and see what you do.
Yeah, dude. No, I appreciate that, and like I just wanted to give a shout out to your listeners and your audience, guys. You guys have a really awesome show host right here, man. I had a really great time tonight. I can't remember the last time I had this much fun, brother. So I mean, you're doing such a great job. Keep up the good work, and I hope I get the invite again someday, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And of course, you will always have the open invite whenever you want. The sheriff will be back on the podcast sometime in the near future.
Awesome, buddy. Peace out, everybody. Hope everyone has a great night.